Good evening, everyone. This is the September meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I hope everyone had a good summer. Just really quick, over the summer, Ms. Fabiano moved to Delaware. So as of the beginning of August, she resigned from her position on the board. Mr. Payne is our new Board of Education president. And was it last week? 2 weeks ago, we filled Ms. Fabiano's seat on the board, and Mrs. Aziz, who is sitting over here to the right, was appointed to that position for the remainder of her term, which is until January. So I just wanted to let everyone know. Thank you guys all for being here, and we will get started with the agenda. So I'm gonna have Mr. Meralda and Dr. Lehman kind of run this part of it, and then what I'd really love to do is, once they're done discussing it, get input or feedback, I was trying to say those together, from the committee about some of the things that they are sharing with you guys. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Sure. So coming up next week, we will be presenting a full update on our strategic plan. So we have a kind of a working draft that I'll share updates on the strategic plan, but it is a draft document, and we will continue to add to it. And there will be things that we'll significantly expand upon during the main meeting. So I'll kind of give some highlights and general updates, and then we can kind of cycle back and just kind of revisit the progress we've made over the past year and kind of highlight some areas of focus for us for next year. And we're going to just keep it on this slide. We do have some handouts for everyone to take a look at. But just to highlight, so we had 3 goal areas: facilities and operations, leveraging technology, and students excelling. And then subcategories within each one of those areas, and you'll see that in your handouts. In terms of the facilities and operations area, we had operations and logistics, the optimization of those areas. Some things that we had to focus on there was our energy savings improvement plan, the ESIF plan. I'm sure you've heard us talk about that a lot in GT meetings. We had a demographic study that we were going to commission. We were updating our long-range facilities plan. That's part of our 5-year requirement with the state. And we're coming up on our 5 years, and that was also related to our demographic study. Facility optimization, again, we step back to that demographic study. We look at the high school facilities alignment with programs, and does everything align programmatically with our facilities. We are looking towards a potential design study as we look at the future layout of our district in the areas of operations and optimization for HR in the business office. We were looking at the Genesis Human Resources module, as well as the Genesis Budgeting, Purchasing, and Payroll modules. So I can provide an update on that. When we get into the transportation piece, we had a focus on electric vehicles. That was not necessarily a priority or something for the short term. That was kind of like an ongoing piece, including charging stations and things throughout the district and joint services opportunities. And then central to this committee, and this is a theme we have in each one of our strategic plan kind of categories, is district advocacy and funding. And the Citizens Advisory Committee is a part of that. The content steering committee. So there are opportunities in the high school where, whether it's a curricular requirement or connection, something related to us keeping up the certification of some of our programming, we do engage in partnerships with professionals in the community. So we can expand on that a little bit, give some examples of what we've been doing there. Public funding sources, we spoke at several meetings about some of those opportunities, as well as private funding, and we do a lot with our enrichment programming and grant fundings and scholarships as well there. So I'll give some updates on that. The other area, in the area of leveraging technology, so instructional technology, we look at curriculum. We have a district technology plan. That was something we were working on last year. I'll give you an update on that. Our tech refresh for the high school, I can update you on that. Our tech expansion, so that would be this year moving forward. It's really a budget piece, but I can share where we're heading with that. One of the other projects we've been working on is our website refresh. That was a big topic of this committee for the beginning of last school year. Our notification system update and refresh, that's something that, and I'll give another update on that, but We rolled out a couple weeks ago. And then we have a couple live broadcasting, real, community, real-time messaging opportunities that we can share as well. And then under that theme, again, the district advocacy and funding piece is that consistent piece we have through all of our categories. And then our final goal area is students excelling, and that's our curricular lens on things. So we, under the programmatic piece, the co-curricular piece, we're looking at Portrait of a Graduate, expanding performing arts opportunities, looking at our K-12 computer science programming opportunities, even developing a potential department in that area. There's post-secondary partnerships looking at, whether it's college credit, certificate opportunities. We always have an eye on potential future graduate requirement, high school graduation requirements, so we can highlight where we see a potential change in the future, maybe near to medium future. So we are putting things in place now. So when the mandate comes down, whether it's a few years from now, we're already rolling with it. We talk about MTSS under this this kind of programmatic area, and MTSS is really the foundation of a lot of the instruction, professional development and opportunities. Full day K is under here.
I was just gonna ask if you could elaborate a little bit about what MTSS is. In case
Sure.
people-
Yep. When I get to the update, I'm gonna go straight through it. Yep.
Great.
But that is our multi-tier system of support. Full day K falls under here, so I'll share kind of a light, brief, general overview of where we are there. We're gonna have a lot more information on that coming Wednesday. Personnel optimization, kind of our vision is every year we look at personnel, but some of the high interest positions that aren't naturally occurring in the district, instructional coaches was something we highlighted as part of our strategic plan, the vision of making that happening. And then the last piece of this is our district advocacy and funding. So cycle back to where we're looking at here.
This one, right?
Yep. So we launched, we commissioned the demographic study at the beginning of the school year last year. It was something the demographer worked on, gathering data. They have certain required data points that they receive, and that tends to be the end of the fall or the winter. That demographic study was completed early spring, really late winter, early spring. And that provided us, I guess, reassurance about kind of the trends in enrollment that we had seen over the past few years. The demographic study is on our website. We have a new location under the district information part of our website that has enrollment information, historical enrollment information. So it has several demographic studies.
We went back as far as maybe even like 2013 or something.
Yep.
Like that, so.
Yep. So you can see the history, and if you think about what we were living through in the world at the time, you can kind of see and make assumptions about, when we roll through COVID, we saw what our trajectory was for enrollment. And I think, going through that definitely had an impact on whether it's the development, whether it's the type of families moving or not moving anymore. We've seen a trend in actual enrollment, and the demographic study laid on top of the potential developments in the future really kind of reaffirms what we've seen the past few years. But the study itself can be found on our website. The long-range facilities plan, the demographic study is a requirement that the state has to complete that LRFP. That is something that is, it's not actually a physical document that we create. It's really something that we populate in the state software. And it takes a look at our enrollment. Do we have enough seats in our buildings? If we don't have enough seats in our buildings, do we have thoughts or plans or things historical that would show potential referendum or something that would accommodate that growth, as well as a lot of other facts. But the requirement for the LRFP is a demographic study. So that demographic study was needed for two reasons: foundation for kindergarten, foundation for reaffirming what we have seen in enrollment trends, but also to have us require to fill that LRFP.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The demographic survey, does that include kids with disabilities, so you'll know ahead of time when you'll need extra, special needs kids?
So all students are included in there in the demographic study. What they use for students in our special programs, they use historical enrollment, and then they make general projections based off of that. It's a much more common projected number, though. What we see with our special programs is sometimes families move in and out. So it's not necessarily a growth, a birth rate calculation. It's more of a moving in, moving out, less predictable number. So we actually really adapt to our special programs or LLD programs, MD programs, autism programs in real time. But we do have like a core. We have most schools have at the elementary level, an LLD program and an autism program, or an MD program and an autism program. And that's a consistent program year after year. We do see bubbles move through, maybe we need 2 sections in this school for a couple of years as that bubble moves through, and then it moves to the middle school or the high school. But the demographic study doesn't really drill down to the individual programmatic needs of every student. It gives us enrollment trends based on history. It also looks at potential developments, how many, rooms are going to be in the buildings that are scheduled to be built. Therefore, that potentially would lead to 1, 2, 3 students per household and makes predictions.
If I can just, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the demographer's report it's basically the population, I think, of who's in the houses and not necessarily what they need. So I think there are kids that go to private schools or, other out of district needs. They're still counted because they still live in Monroe.
So it's just the head count and not the individual.
Yep. And then we look at every year for budgeting purposes, but also programmatic purposes. We look at, real-time enrollment, whether in specific programs. And that's how we plan, whether it's for cluster teachers, whether it's for, special programs classes, in-class resource room sections, that's a real-time year-over-year adjustment.
And the one that's on the website now is completed what year?
But we have multiple years. We have this most recent one and then several
The
years
most
back.
recent one is what year?
Just this
2025.
past spring.
March,
Yep.
April.
So it's a-
Yeah, March 2025.
Okay.
And actually it goes back to 2006, which.
Yeah, there's a
is
gap there,
exciting.
we, don't have it, whatever, we can't find it, whether it exists or not, we're looking for it.
Right. I wonder, this is great, but I remember when we were looking at the advocacy documents, we saw that huge growth between like 2001 and 2006. So I would be curious, for my own knowledge, if that's
It is
available.
actually, when I was having them uploaded, it's interesting to see, but not only the way that, how the times changed, but also the way that they report has changed significantly.
Yeah.
That's for you guys to look
Yeah.
into.
Definitely.
But just to Dr. Lamb's point, so we created a whole separate, this is just recently, we created a whole separate section of our website that is dedicated specifically to our district's demographic, and which obviously relates to our enrollment. So this way you can go back and take a look to see how things have evolved in the township.
Yep. And if you read in some of the mid 2010 to 2020 demographic studies, there was a lot of projected development. And with the projected development and the rate of the projected development, some of the growth rates were condensed. So you would see a large projection over a shorter period of time, and that was done to plan for the potential growth. And if we were looking to build a school, make sure we didn't approve a school, construct a school, and open the doors and we're still overcrowded, right? So you'll see some pretty significant discrepancies, not discrepancies, but projections. But keep in mind, some of those projections are really condensed, and it's in the methodology. So if you read the methodology, but this most recent one is a straight projection, and it also highlights the development that's potentially
Okay.
on the books.
Yeah, because there's a lot of development on the books. That was my question.
Yep, it takes
And-
what's on the books and it also highlights some things that are in litigation, nothing approved, no potential impact within the next 5 to 10 years, kind of peaks. Yep.
I do think one thing that's worth mentioning, is when we did this back in 2022, I think was the last one, we were doing the referendum, or maybe it was 2021, it was right around there. We were told that, it can't look out that far. I think you can only go out 5 years because we were looking at possible housing mandates and, we saw the stuff coming from the state that we have to build, I'm totally making up a number here, it might not be right, but like 3,000 homes over the next decade, but we couldn't necessarily plan for that because technically we can only go out for the 5 years. I do know the township has been working to try and reduce the amount that they have to build, both in terms of total numbers as well as houses that have children, so that the schools are not as affected, whether it's veterans housing or, more senior housing or things like that. But,
Yeah, all the methodologies listed there and everything is, what is exactly was on the books this past winter. So, with any adaptions, modifications, it's a snapshot and then we move forward. So that's something that we have seen enrollment trends really stabilize at the elementary level. And I don't want to say decrease because we've seen a flat line of our enrollment, and that flat line, that stabilization is moving through the middle school. We're actualizing that stabilization, and it will, within a year or so, start to cycle through the high school. So the demographic study affirmed kind of what we've been seeing in enrollment trends, really post-COVID. But again, it's up there for the look, and it's something that we use just to, like I said, we look at real-time enrollments for budgeting. We look at the potential projected enrollments, and this is the first demographic study in a while that really aligns with the trends we've been seeing. Energy savings and efficiencies. So BG&T has been highlighting the work for the Energy Savings Improvement Program. That is a massive initiative that we took the past year or so. It basically is an energy savings initiative that touches every single building in the district. As we stand right now, the building envelopes, so all outside doors, door sweeps, windows, window seals, things like that. Any work that was scheduled to be done is completed. We are one of the major energy savings that we realized the energy savings is changing of our lights, interior lights. So there's a significant amount of progress done with that. Actually, tomorrow night we'll be getting an update on the ongoing work for ESIP. There are boilers, HVAC units, some of the larger projects that are in various stages of design. And as soon as the design is completed, then it'll be resource acquisition. So you're talking lead times of usually months, sometimes more than months, a year and a half on some of the equipment. So this energy savings and efficiencies piece in facilities and operations is an ongoing long-term piece, but we have the foundation to get these things that cost a tremendous amount of money in place right now, because the ESIP plan, basically, we went through the process to get the funding for that on the front end, acquire the materials, and then as we realize the savings, and its projected savings that's been vetted and verified by multiple neutral parties, we then pay back the money that we borrowed to get it on the front end. So things that would normally be referendum items or significant capital items, we are able to do at scale, which helps us realize a tremendous amount of savings. Then we go to students excelling, so the portrait of a graduate. That's something that we did a lot of research and groundwork last year. So portrait of a graduate is something that will be community-wide, not just school-wide, community-wide. And the outcome of that is really developing a vision of what we want, what the paths of a student leaving Monroe Township High School after spending a potential 12, 13 years with us, or up to for some students, 21 years. What do they look like? What's our vision? What's our path for that student? And then what we take from there is, if that's our vision, do we have the things in place at the elementary level, at the middle school level, at the high school level to help our students get to those outcomes? So we've, like I said, did a bunch of research. There are companies you can hire that lead you through this process. Through our investigations, we learned that the portrait of a graduate is a part of a Middle States accreditation process that we have gone through many years ago. So we do have a framework of us going through it, which is not something we expected to see as we started to research this. So that is a nice piece that we're going to further explore, because that could take some of the financial piece away from hiring someone to do surveys with us and kind of guide us through. So in terms of where we stand with Portrait of a Graduate, that is something that we're moving forward with, but we will, decide the path we're going to take this year. R&D for full day K and pre-K, and this will be a significant update next Wednesday. But the highlights of where we are and what we did, starting last year, I began in the spring touring the elementary schools, meeting with the kindergarten teachers, the administration, both building-based and supervisory. We began advocating for funding here as this group, right? Because we realized the challenges, the entire district, the entire community was advocating for funding. And over the course of the spring, we identified that, the model for us is certainly unanimously taking a look at expanding kindergarten within its current school environment. One of the things I talked about with the teachers and the principals and the administrative team is, we explored it one time many years ago. Do we make a kindergarten pre-K center? And, what would that look like and what would that involve? And, kind of to what we highlighted at the last committee meeting, there is a tremendous piece of having the kindergartners be a culture, part of the culture within each of the schools. And that's something that was a theme that the teachers unanimously across the board were supportive of. The administrators were, again, unanimous in supporting it. But, we had to have that conversation. There are multiple ways to make this happen, in the short and or long term. And, the building-based kindergarten is the path that, makes the most sense for us. Put frameworks in place for our half-day kindergarten teachers to engage in professional development for this coming school year. We have a structure in place that we have regular staff development days throughout the year. Our teachers can take a course, they can develop a project and or participate in a PLC. So all of the kindergarten teachers are going to engage in a PLC, professional learning community, where they meet with themselves as a school or even as a district cohort, and they will look at our curriculum materials, which are all written for a year-long full day, but also year-long half day, and begin to dive into those resources and say, in a full day environment, this is what the full day ELA block could look like. This is what the full day math block will look like. This is what the full day science and social studies connections with ELA and math, because now with the growing and increasing amount of time, they can begin to bridge those subjects together. So we put that in place in the spring for our staff to engage in. And we talked about in the curriculum committee meeting, we have things in place with our new science program that's being onboarded. We're year 3 with our My View and Visions program for ELA. We have training, our year 3 training for that. Our kindergarten teachers have been a part of everything all along the way. This year's training focuses on small groups, focuses on individualized and personalized learning. And we see that as what is the opportunity for them to engage with as the time that they have with the students increases. It's more personalized, more one-on-one opportunities for learning.
Just a quick question. I know that the ECE teachers are a separate entity from our MTEA kindergarten teachers. From what I recall, most of them, I think, are certified, the classroom teachers themselves for ECE. Is there any integration that's happening with what they're doing along with, I guess, what we would see in a full day kindergarten capacity?
So ECE and the program for ECE is aligned with our half-day program. So the units they do are complementary to what's going on in the half-day kindergarten classroom. So they definitely are currently related. The themes and the projects they do are in sync with each other. Where we see those specific staff members and their role in full day K is to be determined. If they are credentialed and certified, they are under a different umbrella than our
Right.
district members. So like any job opportunity, there would certainly be opportunities for them to potentially engage in that. But right now, if you're asking, those two programs are synced together.
Right. And then you meant like the professional development. That's for the teachers that are in like Mill Lake and Oak Tree and Berkeley Grove,
Correct.
not necessarily the ECE.
Right, but the ECE staff do have professional development opportunities, and we run those in conjunction with Mrs. McLeod. But the instructional tools that the ECE teachers are using, they're complementary, but they're not exactly the same as, and in every aspect, like they're not necessarily using our science textbook in ECE.
Right.
They may be doing other activities that are aligned with that.
Okay.
So, because our district PD is really resource specific, because a lot of these are digital resources and leveraging tools and things like that.
Right.
Yep.
So exactly what year are we looking for this, BOE to be rolled out?
Yeah, and I'm gonna share there's a couple pathways, you know, again, we talk about this all the time, but Wednesday will be the day when I kind of share that, but, you know, there's a short term and a long-term piece, so, you know, we would love to be prepared to do this in next fall. We would love to, if we can't do it next fall, do it the following fall. And then there's gonna be things that we need to do regardless of when we do it, that are gonna be a parallel process. Because when we do this, there are still building needs in all of our primary schools, as well as throughout the district, that we're going to have to engage in, whether it's, you know, relocating classes that are displaced in media centers and things like that to, real class, you know, not real classrooms, so we built classrooms in media centers, restoring our buildings back to the way they're supposed to operate. Instead of having classes on the back of a stage, which then prevents us using a stage for anything else other than those classes that are occurring, we relocate, we replace, you know, those rejuvenate those spaces back to their original space. And in doing that, there are some capital projects that potentially may need to be addressed. And then at the same time, we need to look at district-wide to say, maybe there's some things ESIP-wise that we still need to tackle across the district that we couldn't get, boilers, HVAC units that we couldn't get in that big district capital project. You know, are there athletic needs that are coming up on the horizon that would be a capital project in a year or two that we need to look at? So there are short-term, medium-term, and then long-term pieces to what we see. And it's centric. There's a kindergarten element to this, but there's also a district-wide, you know, things we still have to do to maintain, you know, our expectations and threshold here.
I just have a question. You mentioned about the R&D for, to say the training for the teachers for this, full day kindergarten pre-K. Was there any, opportunities to, study other countries who have success stories on having kindergarten pre-K curriculum, like at least have, an idea that's different from what we have here as a standard, just like.
The other districts in the state, you mean, or
You're
like?
thinking internationally, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, no, I mean, and I don't mean that, I didn't look internationally in terms of studying what their models are. We tend to, so anything that we do operates under our umbrella of the state requirements, state standards, timing class, things like that. So, you know, it's certainly something we can explore for best practices. A lot of the research is international. So when you look at the foundations and the core of what we're doing, it's a lot of the research comes from multiple countries. You find the structure of school days in different countries is really related to the culture of those countries as opposed to the philosophical research, right? The research is probably centered on personalized learning, individualized learning plans, small group instruction balanced with large group instruction, and that's international. How much time we spend in a class, how many days we go to school, what time of the year we go to school, that is really cultural through you know, internationally and things.
But how about the like parts of the curriculum, like the study on that, comparing what we have now to what others do in other countries that probably if we apply here would be like turn out to be more success if we do it here. Is there a study on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something we all kind of take a look at in our professional readings and our professional developments that are, you know, some of us go to national conferences and things where we meet international scholars and things, but, you know, if we're looking at like a different way to teach math per se, you know, a different style or different philosophy, again, a lot of that is we are under that New Jersey student learning standards piece. So to hit certain benchmarks, we have to funnel in certain teaching techniques or teach certain teaching styles. I think that's the best way to kind of summarize what we're looking at. So we are 100% open to best practices, but we are bound by our cultural norms, right? Our school calendar dates back to the agrarian calendar, right? Back in the day when we were all farmers, and like that's really that's why we have the summers off, right? Not to go to the beach. That's like our schedule. There are many schools in the world, even in the United States, that have year-round schooling, right?
And we
There's
do,
pros and cons, so.
we do pick up certain things. So for example, the big push, through career technical education over the last really five years, 10 years now at this point. A lot of the times when we started exploring that, particularly in New Jersey, they used a lot of European models, particularly in the vocational areas about apprenticeships, work studies. And then lo and behold, a couple years later, the state of New Jersey overhauls what they used to call senior option is now work-based learning to try to really encourage students so they're maybe not overtly, we're not adopting like, let's say, an institution's blueprint, but we do take things that we see working internationally, and we'll try to apply them within the Monroe Committee.
Alvarez, and then.
Yeah, I was just gonna say out loud, some, like the school district where I work, we have like a multicultural week. So we have parents coming in and they can teach a lesson and they can do it in whatever style in their country. And the kids love that because they're all learning about other cultures and then learning a different way of learning math or reading. So that's something that could be considered as an option, like a month, multicultural month or something where some parents can come in and do a quick little lesson.
But the short, lazy answer, I'm sorry, is that we're handcuffed to the state standards.
Yeah.
I also think that people get hung up on statistics from international countries. So statistically, the United States isn't as high as we should be, but a lot of the countries, and I think that could be the basis of your question. So a lot of the countries don't have the same challenges that we do in education. We are a very large country. We do not have national standards. We are close. We have tried that with Common Core, and we're, every state has to have certain expectations, but in our country, there are so many socially economic disadvantaged students. So it's very hard to compare us internationally.
Like my point is that, there's no like said best practices on how probably if you compare it, like say math and math, like how would you excel better? Like it depends on like how you interact with students or the mode of how you teach them and all those stuff that might be more productive or more efficient than what we have now. Just like comparing that against what we have
Right.
currently and maybe
And I
adjust to that.
was gonna say, I also think a lot of that's professional development, like having gone to a lot of those, as a teacher and as a Board of Ed member, it teaches you a lot of the different techniques that maybe are coming from these other countries that you can use to help sort of, add to what the curriculum requires, to help, I guess, sort of get more of it across so that the kids understand it more and differentiate the instruction. Mr. King.
Yeah, if you could go on our website and look at tonight's curriculum meeting, it was outstanding what the administrators and spoke to us about math and where they're going with it and how it's going to start from here to get them to here. And I was comparing, when I was in school, it was just here's your math, that was it. And what they told us tonight was just phenomenal, what we're going to give our students. So go on the curriculum committee meeting and listen to what they said. It was a lot what you're asking and a lot I think that we're going to be giving to our students, but all these new courses that they're introducing, a rhythmic course, I had a geometry course, that was one that we're all going, that was something I don't even remember. I have to say, I went to Catholic school. But now to lead up to the geometry, what they make them do with critical thinking is just phenomenal. So the courses, I would listen to it. It was a great curriculum meeting tonight, and it gave us a lot of different ways that they're going to do it.
So yeah, so that's what my point is like, is there like, any improvements or better ways on how you could like explain a math question, like how to go over it, like that
Yes,
things like.
I think they did
Yeah.
tonight, don't you, Dr. Lehman?
Yeah, and I think that's an ongoing piece
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And it's individualized. Some learners are visual, some learners are written, some learners are audio. So a teacher's toolbox is understanding who the learners are in front of them and adjusting their instruction for the same topic in a way that connects with the students in front of them. So that's the challenge of teaching. And to your point, it's about learning the different ways, because the one way isn't always the right way, right? It's about delivering the content in multiple ways. And like cycle back to math, especially at the elementary level, sometimes you see 3 different versions of solving the same problem. And the reason they do that is one of them is going to stick for the student. Everybody learns each of the way, but as you spiral up, the most important thing is you get one of those ways, and that's the way you move forward. You need to understand a little bit about all of them, right? But that's why there's multiple ways that are instructed. And at the primary level, the foundational level, the students and or the teachers are figuring out what the best way for each of those individual learners are. And that's why everybody sees a little bit of everything. And then as you move your way up, you see those multiple ways, and then you have an opportunity to use the one that works best for you to ultimately solve the problem. So that it's sometimes confusing because it's hard to understand if we've never experienced it going the array way or whatever it is. And then the one that makes sense to us is the more traditional, 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
That's why.
The blocks or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right.
Kindergarten
There's a
is
reason.
harder than 5th grade now
Right.
because of like the different methods.
Again, and Ms. Gasco was here, she gave different explanations, but there's a reason why, and it's for that exact reason.
Listen to her.
At some point, it'll spiral through, and one of those 3 ways, because they all get you the same answer,
Yep.
is a way that the students can pick up and learn and carry forward. Again, the expectation in the beginning is we all kind of get an understanding of all 3 ways or 4 ways or whatever work.
So I know that we're gonna get the in-depth presentation on this next week, because I could ask more questions, but I'm gonna hold off on mine. And I did want to move on to the other stuff. Is there anything else for the committee members that they want to ask about full-day kindergarten? Okay.
So, we do, just to wrap up the full day discussion, we do have some work to be done this fall that will lead us to ultimately making a decision whether it's going to be sooner than later. And that's something, again, I'll highlight as we get into Wednesday. But we definitely have, some pathways to get to where we need to go well before the mandate kicks in.
I do have a question.
Yep.
Now, since funding part of that
Yep.
obviously is going to be required. So is there already funding set aside, or is there a plan to raise funding?
And that's the piece that I'll highlight on Wednesday. So,
There was a piece of legislation that was passed with the kindergarten mandate that does provide certain ways to help fund universal preschool. But because they are mandating, because that's still not required, so they want to incentivize districts who don't have it. But for full day kindergarten, because we're only one of, 6 or 5 to 7, depends on, what steps they're in the process of right now, that have it, there's been a lot of resistance at the state to really provide that funding, because all of the other, this is what I hear from Trenton, right? Is they've all been able to put it into their budget. So they are very resistant to give that significant additional funding to the districts that don't have it, because all of these other districts already have it in with that same.
With that, we did get some.
We got some.
We've received, money,
We did a lot of advocacy.
Right.
So we had a lot of meetings.
right, we received, was it Right, 500,000
Senator
this
Greenstein,
year.
a lot of those 500,000 each year
And we had,
towards kindergarten.
right, we got
A lot of
300,
that was towards
right, it was towards
That's what she
capital,
told me.
so it was towards capital
Yeah, it
improvements,
is.
but it can be used
But
for
she
capital.
said to me, you better be, when I saw her, she said, you better be using it for
Right.
kindergarten, and I said, oh, yes, we are.
So,
Can you
so
give us some more?
to answer your question, the cost related to the full day K. We have projections of costs right now as we go through the budgeting process, which is, we really, in the central office, got started on the process as soon as we closed the books on this previous year. But we spin that up in the fall. So we will have, the curriculum and supplies piece go through the budgeting process as if full day K was going to be happening, right? We will look at our staffing as if we're applying and moving forward with full day K. That's when we see with the staffing movement through the district, with the changing demographics of our student population, which impacts the moving around of teachers. We do this every year, right? Whether, you have a bubble in fourth grade that moves to fifth grade, we cycle teachers through. That's what we do. We don't just, arbitrarily hire teachers and leave extra teachers in certain areas. So as we go through that process, which will happen this fall, we'll have a very, very good idea what the reality is. And I'll highlight some of that on Wednesday. We had talked about a significant cost to full day K just on the books. But as we've looked at the enrollment trends and things, we are able to kind of narrow that down a little bit. The state funding, which was $500,000 towards capital improvements, can be used towards the specific things related to full day K. So any design study that we need to pay for related to full day K, we will certainly leverage that money. If there are desks and chairs and things like that we need to purchase, we can do that. If there is kindergarten locations in the building that need some sort of modifications, whether it's the AC unit above that room, right? Or the windows in that room, or the door, or the building envelope, or, well, we did that through reset, but, toilets or whatever that is, we can utilize that capital, because capital is a funnel or a specific area of money. We can't use the capital towards curriculum materials. So, we can strategically allocate that money that we have this year to use towards full day K and anything related to the building in the full day K area.
Is there like a minimum state requirement of how many full day K classes that's required?
Nope, so.
So we
full
can
day.
just have one and then that was still satisfied?
No, we actually have some full day K in place now, but it's integrated, it's special ed related, it's a special programs, full day K.
Right, so the mandate is that every student who would be eligible for full day kindergarten based on their age would be provided with that.
So when we roll it out, we're rolling it out for our students.
Like, it wouldn't be a lottery. Every child that's 5 years old
Right.
would have to have access to it.
But if there's not enough actual seating, then what would we do with
So,
students?
we would have enough before we offer it. And whether we have to, and again, I don't envision us going this way on the short term, but whether we have to do a referendum or to add extra classrooms to make it happen, then that's what we would have to do. And have a plan in place to do that and show the state by 2028 or
Because
whatever.
I only say that because from my old, back in New York, we had the same exact Board of Ed, you're required to provide a space for especially siblings. Now, obviously, they didn't expect a heavy move-in population of families with enough, eligible kids, and a bunch of the parents were actually excluded out of it, and, it's just.
So when we project for what we look at for full day K, we're going to look at our first grade numbers. That'll be the benchmark. We have 70% of our first grade attend kindergarten in the township. So we'd be looking at a 30% increase for our kindergarten population. But then we would also need the additional space to house them full day instead of, sharing classrooms at A&M and PM. So, when we would look to do this in the buildings, we'd look to do it for all the students. The state gave us an opportunity to partner with like a private kindergarten, and that's not a path that we felt would be viable because we would want our students to have our teachers in our schools and not have a lottery of who goes to a private pre-K versus not a. Now, as we get into the pre-K conversation years down the road, that would probably have to be, and many districts are looking at the private pre-K district partnership. Because we would tap out in terms of space 100%, with the kindergarten in place. So, that's kind of what we're looking at. Yeah.
In the district where I work, we do have contracts with private preschools, but they have to do our curriculum.
Correct.
Right. So it's not like those children would have a different curriculum than the children that are going to public here. It would be the same instruction.
Yep, and that's what the private, and that's what the state said we could do with a private kindergarten. But we are close enough that we don't necessarily need to do that. You know, we can make it work, then we can take a look at a project to make it perfect and then move forward.
And most parents wouldn't want that anyways, because the reason they want it, because of location, they want.
Right, you're in the school.
They want their homeschool.
Right.
If we can put them in their homeschool, yeah, if they have other siblings there,
Yes, that's what it is.
they don't want to break it up. They want to be there. Can I ask real quick, what is our cutoff date for kindergarten here? I know some schools are October 30th.
Put me on the spot. I want to say October 1st.
Yeah. I
October
think-
30th.
It's October 1st, so
October
so
30th.
that also impacts the number of
October-
children that you're going to get into.
October. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
You're catching me off guard. I think it's
But
October
wouldn't
1st.
that impact the numbers of children you're gonna get
Because
into?
my son just made that cutoff. But I mean, we're going back a couple years.
I'll look it up.
I used that to my
I'm
advantage.
just I'm just curious.
Carol,
31st.
first or 30?
31st,
For
Yeah,
kindergarten?
I'll look it up.
Oh.
September,
October.
October 30th. We're in the 30 days of September.
31st.
Honestly, I would say that's something that I would really like to see at state level for them to streamline.
Yeah,
Because
it's
it's
different.
pretty crazy from like Monroe to,
Marlboro's
Right.
December 31st
Yeah.
versus September 30th. It's different everywhere.
Tweaking the cutoff.
Yeah,
date.
it could be. My grandson in Somerset was
So that might help. with the
October
numbers.
31st and he's October 23rd.
Mhm.
So he got in, but you're right. I mean, years ago when my children went, my daughter was July, and they were considering then that was even,
Young, I know.
Young.
You have to look at the.
and so you gotta look at the demographics and the child, the whole child, you know, everything. There's a lot put into it, you know, give them the right education at the right time, so.
all right, we got 10 minutes.
Yep. So just to highlight a few other.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No, you can move to the next slide. Again, this is like highlights from some of the highlights we'll do at the board meeting. Let me see here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you look through your document, you can see it's all draft, but what we've done is what Dr. Lehman is presenting is kind of the broad stroke topics and all of these topics were provided to us through our planning design sessions, which many of you were part of that. So just so everyone has the larger context and see how it's broken down, which, as Dr. Lehman mentioned, he will be doing in further detail next week.
Yeah, so just some quick highlights. We did the high school refresh over the summer for the iPads. We're on a 4-year cycle now. It was a tremendous lift from our tech staff. We got them early enough. They turned them over. All students had the opportunity to pick them up, but they had access to them before school started. We have had historically, with the volume of iPads we purchased, a very tight window at the beginning of the school year, turning them over to the students. So it was an awesome opportunity. We resold the old ones and got more than we expected. It's a good resale market for the technology right now. So that is another awesome opportunity. The reason we're on a 4-year cycle is the warranty or the insurance is a 4-year insurance plan now. So that helps us longevity wise, battery life wise. We kept these previous ones an extended year and we had good battery life, but I think we stretched them just about as far as we could get. So this new one with the new batteries and the 4-year warranty, screen replacements and things like that is, the way to go. Some other highlights, we deployed the Genesis, which is our student management system. We employed the employee side of the HR module. That was one of the things we had planned to do last year. We implemented it in the spring. We released contracts this summer and in this spring for our staff, all through the employee portal. We got away from mail merges and PDF documents and hand signing and inter-office mail, signed contracts back. So we're moving into the 21st century, or the digital world. We are moving, and we just approved at the last board meeting, the Genesis payroll. So we're gonna transition to the same employee portal, to the payroll module. So we're gonna run this fall parallel payrolls with our current payroll software. And the most important highlight to that is the supplemental work that our staff does, whether it's after-school activities, coaching stipends, any hourly work they do for us, that is submitted via paper right now. And it goes for hand signatures for multiple people along the way. And the time it takes, whether it's summer enrichment or schoolwork, work during the school year, it's submitted to the office signs it, date stamps it, inter-office mails to another office, signs it, dates it, comes to central office, signs it, dates it, and it goes down to payroll. So it's a time and labor-intensive process. The piece outside of the payroll pieces, that will all be done digitally now. It'll be passed through with email notifications, digital sign-offs, digital reviews. So it'll expedite that process. It'll also remove the human error opportunities of manually inputting these hours, these times, these financial pieces, and it'll all be digitized. And from what I understand, it can also be synced with, whether it's manually or automatically synced with the board agenda. So when we approve staff for certain positions, once the board meeting is processed and completed, those timesheets will then digitally and automatically become available for the staff. They wouldn't necessarily have access to them to unintentionally submit them in advance. They will have access to them once they're approved. Because with our payroll rules and things like that, we don't pay anything for anyone until they're board approved. So that's another step of manually searching a board agenda for a board approval date once a timesheet is submitted and processed. So this is a massive step in modernizing our payroll department, who does a phenomenal job. But we are long overdue for this. And then the next step would be looking at budgeting and purchasing. We are a full year of implementation for payroll, so I would anticipate another solid year before we even get into that budgeting and purchasing software connection. But that would be the logical next step.
Can I have a quick question on that?
Yep.
Now it's all in the system. Is anyone auditing that, like spot checking from time to time if there's any issues within like numbers and?
Yep. So that's all embedded in the process. And then the human audit also comes from the checks along the way. So the first step is always, the building principal and or the supervisor to verify that that work was completed. Then it moves through the next set of steps. And then when it's uploaded and input, there still is the cross-checking and random sampling that would allow them to pick up any issues. And then, of course, we have our district audit, annual audit and things like that, which further takes a look at that. I think that's probably a decent kind of summary over it. There's a ton of projects. You can see that the font is extremely small in the document, but we did a ton of work last year. We have a lot of stuff scheduled for this year. And again, the way we envision the update to actually happen is if you want to go back to slide 3, just so we can show you the format of the update. And then once we publish this and put it out on the web, you can understand. So 1, 2, 3. That bottom right section where we have white, light purple, and dark purple boxes, that's research, discovery, partial implementation, and implementing. If you go to the next slide, we take that chart and we build out our progress embedded in that chart. So that's like a zoomed in big version of, our general timelines. And you'll see some of the highlights, what we've done, where we stand, what we're heading towards this coming school year. And then we have spaces in the future to continue to build on. We can see a historical record of the progress that we've made and the strategic choice of moving things along and not moving things along.
And this document really isn't designed for the public to be able to read and be like, oh, okay, this makes sense, right? Because there's a lot of nuance in here. But what it does is, and then if you were, and our strategic plan is on the website, when this is finished, we'll provide an update to the public as well. You can see how this works alongside our strategic plan, which we designed last year. So this slide was pulled directly from the actual approved strategic plan. And this is our update that almost memorializes some of the things that we were working on. you will see that in some instances, we projected, let's say, partial implementation or full implementation maybe later on in the year. But some of these items we actually actualized ahead of schedule. So we would indicate that by changing the color here. And again, this is more of a project management tool for us in many aspects as well. And it was really healthy for us to go through it. We promised that we would do this periodically. In fact, one of our members of the strategic plan, Mrs. Swalje, asked specifically for this, something like this. And then what you can see is we went through, and I thought it was a completely reasonable ask, because what it does, and I'll jump all the way over here, this was really our accountability checklist, and to kind of show where we are in reference to the plan that we had put forth. And here is what we're cooking for this year. You know, strategic plans can change. Priorities will shift. New state mandates will hijack planning from time to time. But the important thing is I think we use the term North Star for the strategic plan, and we are continuing to follow it. And we feel pretty good about things. And I encourage you all, because we are coming down, we're done, right? I do have to collect these documents because they're not complete. And they are in draft form, so there may be typos and incorrect information there. I bet you did.
My name.
Oh, no, I'm kidding. But the goal would be to have something ready for the public, but also to get some feedback from the committee. Is there something maybe that is ambiguous? Is there something that you're not quite sure how this aligns to one of those 3 goal areas? And maybe we can do a better job of making that clear from you guys on your end as residents. So that's pretty much it.
Yep.
All right, we will get this wrapped up. Thank you all for coming. Have a great night, and we'll see you next month.